I think with One Big Hapa Family, I want us to see ourselves as being Canadian, right? So much emphasis is put on the idea that, you know, we're stuck in these groups, Japanese Canadian, Chinese Canadian, Indo-Canadian, da-da-da-da-da. And, you know, in a way, is that healthy? Because we're mixing now, right? And for me, yeah, I'm Japanese Canadian, but I'm also Canadian, right? I'm also European Canadian, right? There's all these lines of being labeled, right? And I think we need to sort of look at the idea of how to identify as who we are. Is culture and heritage a big part of that? And what this film I'm looking at is sort of like, how can other groups like the Chinese Canadians, Indo-Canadians, who are very almost segregated themselves into these groups in Chinatowns and, you know, these areas, how can they sort of look at this and say, okay, it's okay if our kids marry a Canadian. It's okay if our kids marry someone who's white, right? Because there's a lot of pressure that I find from my friends who are Chinese Canadian or South Asian, that their parents are saying you need to marry someone else who's South Asian or Chinese. But you know what? We're living in a very multicultural place, and that can't always be the case. And so I just want people to realize that even though we mix and we blend, it's going to be okay, right? We're not losing anything. We're gaining, right? And I want people to see this through my family, that my family has done this, and we're a very happy, stable, and just a really happy family, right? One big happy family. And that's what I want people to get from this, is that, you know, at the end of the day, even though we've mixed and we've blended, we're still a huge happy family. And I think that's what people need to realize and celebrate.
Maybe we could say it was because of the war that we had to break our ties with Japan, and so we really went overboard doing it.
We were totally different, really, because you're different as much to me as I am different to you.
And that's something that I felt from many years ago, that this is a way, like, we were going to marry a Caucasian.
They call me Sushi.
Once they called me Sushi too.
There might be a day that comes and when people say, yeah, what do you mean I'm Canadian? I don't know what else I am.
So yeah, there's quite the mixture. So there's white, there's black, there's native, and then of course Japanese.
Little Indian Sioux or Crow, little Frosty Eskimo, little Turk or Japanese, or don't you wish that you were me? Or don't you wish that you were me? And that was something that we took at school in the early grades, and it was supposed to be written by an English boy.
I often hear people make the comment, well, our community is getting smaller, it's dying, and the problem is intermarriage. We're just disappearing. And I turn around and say, no, because intermarriage actually makes us one of the fastest growing communities in this country, because we're doubling the number of people who can potentially add children to our community.
I started making animation basically. We took some high school classes. In high school, they had an animation program, so I kind of played around with animation then. I kind of always knew I was going to be an artist or an animator, and I didn't know about animation because there weren't a lot of avenues when I graduated from high school. Like schools and stuff were just sort of popping up. So I kind of thought, okay, well maybe I'll go into being an artist. And I around the first year of fine art school, I was lucky to get into the Emily Carr animation program. And so I came out to Vancouver and studied animation for 3 years. So I have my degree is in animation. So I have a Bachelor of Film Animation from Emily Carr. And so that sort of got me into that path of making animation. So what happened was after graduating from Emily Carr, I had sent a proposal into the CBC, and what had happened was it was a proposal about an animated film based on my experiences growing up being part Japanese Canadian. And it was sort of like some of the strange and interesting things that happened to me growing up, being someone who is of multi-ethnic background, growing up in a very sort of Caucasian city. And so that little film did quite well because it was something that people could really relate to. You know, it was a true Canadian experience, really. And so a lot of people who are mixed or Hapa or multi-ethnic or Japanese Canadian, mixed Japanese Canadian, really sort of saw the film and really related to it. So it actually did a lot of film festivals, and it played on the CBC. It got quite a bit of airplay, and so that was the first professional project that I worked on. That was my own film, and then from there, kind of went on and made more independent short film.